Brakes on that. You know. Everything I didn't stop.
Being 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge of flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reminder to the audience, we'll keep chit chat to a minimum so everybody can hear online. With that said, moving forward, we'll review and approve the minutes of April 19th.
Motion to. I don't usually approve the minutes.
So there's a motion
Second.
and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, Dylan, Kelsey, Lindsay. Yeah, and a yes for myself. Members reports, we'll start with Lindsay.
Nothing.
It was something, but I can't remember. So no. Okay.
I just wanted to report out, we went to a webinar with the Maine Municipal Association. A lot of good information, maybe too much information, but I learned a lot. So thank you, Richard, for kind of sending that opportunity my way. I wanted to share that I can't make it to our next meeting, May 17th. I have a conflict with a school event. Just wanted to let people know that ahead of time, so we have a quorum. Had an awesome tour of waste management. Super thankful we have people who care so much about doing a good job with that. Learned a lot and got shown all around, so thank you for that. And then I just wanted to send a thank you to our TIF committee, because I know that we might be like looking at that, or we are looking at that again, and maybe getting some new members. I attended the last meeting as like a community member, and I think some people were frustrated with how it ended. So I just wanted to send out a thank you to all those people who were up there.
Okay, and I don't have anything. So we'll go right into the town manager's reports.
All right, just a reminder that proposals for IT services and roadside mowing are due by May 10th. Those will be considered at the next meeting. The high school community service day, which was scheduled for May 12th, due to lack of staffing at the high school, that's been postponed to May 26th. The superintendent of schools will be here at your next meeting to discuss the upcoming budget. Planning board is scheduled to meet next Thursday at 6 o'clock, and we have a pending application, but it's now incomplete. So hopefully that'll be finalized tonight and then closed out by tomorrow. We'll bring that up under other business. Warden service, DOT and the state ATV program all sent representatives as well as the Sportsman's Association last Friday to discuss the association's request to open up all state roads for ATVs. The request was largely denied because DOT doesn't want ATVs on roads. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, but what we're going to do is once we get the formal authorization from DOT, we'll get a map together and roll that out so that people are aware of it. Signage also has to go with that, so no ATVs are authorized on town roads, on state roads, nowhere. None of these trails are open yet. The local roads will happen when the signs are put up, and we'll broadcast that. So you should not be on your ATVs on public roads. If you are interested in Build Maine, that is the entrepreneur small business assistance workshop. That's a 2-day, June 7, 8 in Skowhegan. If you are a town employee or you serve on any committee and you're interested in going, please reach out and I'll get you registered for that. And if you're looking for more information, you can get on their website. TIF committee's next meeting, May 23rd. 30-day notices on unpaid sewer use charges from a year ago will go out May 12th. There's probably 30 accounts in that status. And then looking at automatic foreclosure for sewer, we don't have any that are going to be going up this quarter for redemption. So that is all very good. Public Works installed a new adaptive swing at Usula Park that we put out on Instagram and Facebook yesterday, the day before. It's receiving a lot of positive public support and appreciation on that. That was a TIF committee project that was referred to them by this board through the rec committee. So that's a positive thing there. Down to a park, and then the Parks Committee is going to meet next Tuesday, to start talking about Usula days, but second, they want to have the whole thing. So they want to talk about how that would happen, the timing of it and whatnot. And so they're gonna talk about that next Tuesday at 4 o'clock here at the town office. If anybody's interested in any of that, they're welcome to come, or find out more. Sunday morning, there were reports of a natural gas leak in town. That was not the case. It was determined that most likely the source was farm source land spreading. It seems kind of obvious to some, but to others, it's just better safe than sorry. So to those people that may have felt slighted by some of the comments out there on the interwebs, we appreciate the alertness there. Also Summit, they were very responsive. Waste Management also responsive to those efforts, so thank you to them. The storm on Monday, obviously that's bigger news than the gas leak that was non-existent, but a number of road closures. Thank you to the fire department, to our private contractors to help us get everything back to normal. We were able to click everything finally on all local roads this morning to get everything back together. River Road still technically remains closed. You should not be going down River Road in the vicinity of 230. You should be going around to the other side. Ideally, DOT will be in tomorrow to repair that, but nobody's got a real good look on the road in terms of what it's going to need, and if it's going to be able to be 2 lanes or whatnot. So that's a high risk area right now, and we strongly discourage anybody from going through there. And I'm fairly confident that our first responders do not want to have to be fishing vehicles and individuals out of the river. So out of respect for them, take the long way around. The dock at the boat launch, that went out Monday night. The waters went up 2 to 3 feet in the overnight, and the dock went with it. We cannot find it. We're assuming it's downstream in several pieces, which is unfortunate. Took some flack about not having it pulled out. The way that the water came, nobody ever thought it was going to happen that way. And by the time it got the way that it did, I'm not putting employees or property into that river. It put us out to too much exposure. So no, we don't have a dock anymore, but we are whole still. I've already reached out to Bureau of Parks and Lands Boating Facilities Program about getting a replacement. We will not get a new replacement this year. There is a slim chance that we will get a refurbished, if you will, dock system to get us through the season. But that's still up in the air. We still do have the old Shore Master. It just puts us in a tough position, but it is what it is. And we'll see that through. I'll keep you posted on that, and we'll communicate out on social media for boat access. And I'll circle back on that a little bit later, as that's not so urgent. I'll hit this now and then go back up. So there was a trip stanchion bays at Weston Dam. We put the communication on the website and on Facebook. It's getting quite a bit of traction already. Pretty much that means the water's leaving the Kennebec River uncontrolled. And it's going to be that way until they can get in and fix it. So once everything settles down, the runoff, the flows all subside, their words, the head pond will drop uncontrollably. And it will go down approximately 9 feet below that normal pond level. And it's going to remain there for some time until they can actually repair the Weston facility. So be aware of that. Also be aware that the spillway in Skowhegan is fully exposed, and those barriers, the boater barriers, are not there. So you should use extreme caution. As information becomes available, we'll let you know. But pretty much it's all late spring boating activity will be affected by the dam. The last part of public safety is going to be regionalization of EMS services. Right now, we're really not affected because we have Reddington, and Reddington is not charging. But what we're seeing in neighboring communities is the impact of Delta starting to levy a per person, per capita rate on communities to provide response. So it doesn't affect us now, but inevitably it will down the line. So rather than just standing by and understanding what's going on, not contributing, or having to do it ourselves down the line, I've agreed to get on the group with the neighbors east and the south in looking for a state community self-determination grant. It brings in consultants at no cost to the communities to help look at the options and guide decision-making going forward as to how do you manage it. Is it something that's municipally managed? Is it something that's managed by a separate entity? Or what in terms of real, I would say EMS, ambulance response, transportation services. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. That's something that's not really immediately relevant for us, but it will be in the future. So the Army Corps permit came through for Sandy River Road. That's been, about a year. We're proceeding cautiously on the timing of that because We would ideally like to use that congressionally directed spending that came in for that river project. It can fit within the scope of our regular budget if it needs to be. The problem is that we're facing obstacles and obstacles and obstacles in terms of getting to that money. We need to conduct an environmental assessment, environmental review under HUD guidelines. We can't get to the person at HUD that can explain to us what that environmental review looks like. I just this afternoon got a new contact name for the person who's going to be our point of contact at HUD, and hopefully we'll be able to get into that this next week. Haley Ward, who's our primary engineer, they are going to navigate this for us. They're going to administer all of these funds, and so that should be a relief from us, but it's still going to be a time issue. And the thing with the Sandy River Road project is we have those concrete dates as to when we can and can't be doing that project. So we'll see how that all plays out, and we'll keep you posted on that. The Highway Congress, which is at the Fairgrounds, June 1st in Skowhegan. Anybody that's interested, I say anybody, employees or committee members that are interested in attending that, please let me know. We can get you signed up for that. The last thing is going to be recreation, twofold here. Field day was last weekend before this last. Very well attended. They got a lot done. The fields look really good. And so thank you to everybody that showed up there and got everything cleaned up. But then really on Monday with the 5 inches of rain, we had the Lynches, we had the Everetts, we had the Libbies, and then a handful of other folks on Monday that we have lakes on those fields. And by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we had batting practice and we put 3 games on those fields. So 10 points for loose for the drainage project. Thanks to taxpayers for backing that, and then thanks to the volunteers and the families for seeing that through, because we're the only ball fields in the area that can host any games now and probably for a little while longer. So kind of a cool thing we got going on down there, and it's good for big bats in the shack and everything else. So
Sweet. Okay, thank you. The second action on May 3rd, general warrant, number 9.
Want me to move to approve the $33,537.27 for general warrant number 6?
That's the one. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Earl,
Right, that's okay. Kelsey, yes.
Yes.
Dylan, yes. Lindsay?
Yep.
Yes. And myself, yes. Roll call getting every time. Public comment. All people out there. Anybody? Public comment? Everybody's.
The only thing I would ask you,
You would.
no, with the water being up in the river this year, again, they had a problem at the trestle with the backup of debris, and that was always the railroad's problem. But if you happen to look at, it's actually got the scour out on the upside, this side of that pier, because of the way it's being shut down around. So is the state
They have.
gonna do anything to address that?
We've actually, the Sportsman's Association has been given permission to get pricing and to throw it in with our grant stuff to have that removed.
Because it's getting
We
worse.
reached out to Rick Labby, he's not, and we're going to Hollowell tomorrow, David Hollowell tomorrow, just because people with barges are limited.
Yes,
So I may actually pick your brain later if you.
I have no idea.
Yeah, same. So, right, as soon as we can find someone, we'll make
But it
that
has been
happen.
addressed. It
Yeah,
did look like it's
and
getting
they
worse.
seem to be more than willing to work with us on
Because
this.
the railroad always was not.
Right, and that's, well, luckily it's
7.8
switched hands and the state seems to really care, so hopefully we can get that cleaned out shortly. So, okay, anything else? Todd, go ahead.
I've got a question about the swimming area.
Yeah,
Is anything gonna happen with that?
yeah, so currently we're kind of waiting for engineering on the anchoring to the bank. It sounds simple to just throw it up, right? But there has to be some type of concrete anchor to keep it there. Of course, it's gotta be environment friendly, and so this should.
And our dock just went missing.
It did. I'm sure we'll do something for the new dock, but that's a great point of where I'm certainly glad we didn't have our new dock system in for this high water, because that would have been certainly bad. So yeah, I think as soon as we can get some headway on the engineering piece of that, we can maybe see that happen. It's not gonna be this season. This just not,
Not again this year?
no. So hopefully for next year. Thank you. Anything else under public comment? Okay, seeing none, moving forward, discussion action on purchasing policy.
I think I said this should be on the agenda, so I will start talking about it. I just think, I know when we have talked about things in recent meetings, there was some like discussion about like our bid process and what like our purchasing policy is and making sure we are doing right by that. Personally, when I reviewed this, I feel like it does outline a very thorough purchasing policy and like what to do in the case that we want to put something out to bid, but it doesn't necessarily say something has to go out to bid. It very clearly says unless otherwise deemed to be in the best interest of the town. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was happy to have a chance to review this. I don't know if other people wanted to chime in and feel good about it and all that.
For myself, I'm pretty comfortable where it is. I'm trying not to upset people. It's to change this and make it so restrictive that you have to put everything out to bid really ties our hands. And it's tough. I don't know how to coin this correctly. I mean, if you don't trust what me and Richard do, then replace us, right? You know what I mean? And then beyond that, I don't know,
So I'll say one thing about the bid thing. I think there's the dollar amount type deal is a good thing. The roadside mowing, well, because that's something that I'm interested in doing. So when will I find out if that's a job that I may have, Richard?
Maybe the next meeting, 17th.
17th. And when would you want the first cutting done?
Right, mid to end June.
I'm already at the point where that's gonna be tough, and I don't even know if I have the job yet. So that's the only problem with the bidding process. And I know on previous jobs, it's kind of come up like, wow, this really needs to get done before snow. It's like, well, this is even say May. For some people, Rick Labby, Mike Ober, it's a lot of people. I'm booked up until next year, That's the only thing I will say about the bidding process, and I'll leave it at that. Because time nowadays is really hard to schedule.
Anything on that, Lindsay?
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, we typically know about the projects that are going to happen, well in advance. When we use the timeline excuse, sometimes I feel like it was maybe poor prep on our part not to get those bid specs out ahead of time. I think there was something last week when we're using a contractor that we'd already been using. I think it was like with Pike or something like that. And if we put it out to bid now, we wouldn't have time to have it done before September. But like we probably should have had that out ahead of time. That's the only thing I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that as soon as we know, we put it out to bid so that we're never using, the convenience of, well, if we don't do it now, I just want to make sure that we're doing all the steps. When we know something comes up, we put it out to bid. So that way we're never in that time press where we have to be making those decisions that can be, looked at sometimes as maybe, we're maybe being preferential to someone else because it's not going through their regular process.
Okay, no, right on, valid point. Was anything? Go ahead.
I'm just curious, there's not a minimum dollar amount that requires you to put something out to bid?
Well, there is.
There is, but the way the purchasing policy was written. So it says like 10,000 or more, it can go out to bid unless otherwise deemed to be in the best interest of the town. So I think there's.
And so the time factor here, as Lindsay was saying, some, like with the fence down that they were gonna do for the railway. At one point it was this much, and then all of a sudden, because people wanted to get it done, it jumped a significant amount. And somehow I think that should have been put out to bid. Yes, people were complaining that why hasn't this been done and why isn't, but you're still in the best interest of the town. Something that jumped that much should have been put out to bid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular item, but.
I can't remember, the Alice Emery Square.
Oh, goodness, right, the Alice Emery Square, that's, yeah.
Retaining wall.
Yeah, the retaining wall, yeah, I remember how all that came to light and still stand within the process, but certainly I agree with, I understand your opinion on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it
Yeah.
just seemed like it, delay, and then, oh, people are upset, so now we gotta up the price and get it done. You know,
Okay.
and so to me, that just was poor planning, and if you have a minimum amount or a maximum amount. A little more foresight.
Now that was, I hadn't been doing this very long, but if I remember right, that was some fence that people were concerned about the appearance, I think, and then it took into consideration the appearance of it. I think, and I could be wrong.
we started with fence and ended with retaining wall, stone and leveling off, so I think the process changed. I know we had 2 or 3 contractors look at it, only one was interested and gave a price, and they're a repeat contractor for the town, and gave a very competitive price. I don't feel that we got stuck on that one at all.
But that came to you from the committee.
That came from.
But I think like the price jump, it was like, I don't know if it was chain link fence to something that,
Done something else, but
Yeah,
it was
something
the
like that.
transparency and the fact that I think one of the reasons was, well, we've got to get this done. And so the communication perhaps could have also been better around it.
Yeah, thank you. By bringing this up, I just wanted to make sure, just from conversations before, that we were doing right by the policy, and I feel like we have, in my time, short time here. Thank you.
Something else I'll add too with that, and I did notice that it was in this policy now, is that a lot of times it might not go out to formal bid, but I know that there's a lot of Richard reaching out to local businesses that do things like that. I think that if we can just be transparent and, having it documented that, with that particular job, company X got that job, but Richard had also spoken with and, gotten, either lack of interest or a different price from company A and B as well. At least that way, I mean, it's still not technically going out to a full bid, but at least then there's like the transparency to the taxpayer that, it's not just given to that one person without any other, company or thought put into it. And I think that a lot of times Richard is doing these things like on his own and getting this information, but we've got to find a way to maybe share that information with people when they ask for it, because the diligence is there, but it's not necessarily showing up in the way that people necessarily want to see it, if you know what I mean. Like if it is a phone call thing or conversations that are happening, let's make sure that whether it's in our meetings or, it's just somewhere where people can access it, that, there were other companies that were approached, even though it wasn't put out to bid, but they declined, they were too busy, or the price was, not something that they could work with. And at least that way, I think that everyone can feel comfortable knowing that the town was still acting in the best interest. And, it wasn't just giving it to one person without even considering other prices or other, companies for the opportunity.
So. I do this a ton in my day job, and we have a policy. I love policies. One thing we need to know is going to a formal bid process is generally going to cost you more if it's going to be a smaller project. So $10,000 is way too low to be going to bid. I think, you could have a quote process like Lindsay talked about, but saying a $10,000 project needs to go over a sealed formal bid is going to cost the town significantly more than contract, like going to a local contractor and saying, hey, can I get a quote, and providing the different quotes, right? So just, I know that you were talking about this, just keep that in the back of your mind. It's like, there's a difference between a bid process when we talk about a formal sealed bid and then getting quotes and soliciting quotes and proposals, right? They're two very different things. So just, so everyone's like thinking the same way.
Thank you. Right, I don't know anything else.
Motion to move on.
I don't want, maybe we do it all. Anything else from the public on there? I don't want to, right? Yeah. Good. Let's get that, so we'll just leave that as is. Do you want to look at it again? Just let us know, put it back on there. Other than that. Right, number 9, right, discussion action on local Philadelphia grant award process.
I brought this one up too. So when we did this earlier, it just felt clunky in terms of like the expectations of us and people who are requesting funding support. It seems to me like there's no policy really, just people request money and we can give it to them. It doesn't even seem like they necessarily need to have all this criteria, but this is what we like to look at. Am I right in that? Okay. So just, again, it felt clunky last time, so I don't know if at some point or a future meeting, it would make sense to create a policy, or if it is something that we just wanna like toss our own bias into and what we feel passionately about and that sort of thing. I don't know if we wanna make it that we have to have this information. I'm just not sure. It felt clunky. So, yeah.
It is.
And I'm okay if it's clunky, but like, it felt weird to me, and so I just wanted a chance to chat about that. And see other people's thoughts.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's always been a topic of discussion. It's always been awarded oddly. Yeah, and I don't really know the correct way to, like, it's unfair, but like you said, without your own personal interest in it and it jumping out at you, and you don't really know, you're left with whether they send you a packet, how, you know. So it is tough, so I don't know the answer, and see we have a question, go ahead, Tara.
I would like the town to set something up formal and have it be in at a certain date. And maybe you guys can look at it without bringing any of your biases into it. And make it a policy that, let's say, we've got 10 applicants. Nobody looks at it and we divide the money between the 10 applicants.
If it were only that simple, right?
Yeah,
And
It's like
that makes
it
sense, but
because
There's a lot of factors that go into these, whether the organization in your town, whether, I mean, you get blanket requests from everywhere. So you could have someone asking you for money that has no impact on your town, does no business in your town. Why would you want to contribute to those services? I mean, it's not my money I'm giving away. I can give that to whoever I want. But if it's taxpayer money, it needs to benefit the taxpayers.
and there may not be 10, there might be 50 of them.
And
Right. you always have the authority and you can make the policies to say that this has to have a direct impact, and it shouldn't matter. Like Meals on Wheels, for instance, stuff like that, that's near and dear to my heart. It's important to me, but it might not be important to you, Matt, or, Dylan. You might not be affected, but everyone else here, maybe. And mental health for you is a passion for you. So remember, we have 3,000 community members.
yeah,
So.
I think we had about 36 requests for funding, and we had $10,000.
And I think that's where Kelsey's saying it's clunky is she's the mental health thing, the handicap, and I have no idea about that. And the ATV club, traffic club right across the street from my house, where that's where it makes it hard, where you do a list of things, criteria that's
Right, you guys can set that up. And then it's not a biased decision, I guess. And I get to see it on the budget committee. And by the time it gets to the budget committee, it's already set in stone that you're going to give this much money to this. And here I am, a member of the budget committee, and I can say, I don't think the traffic club deserves anything, but I think the food pantry should get more money. And by that time, it's already set in stone per se, and I'm just one person on the budget committee that says no. And so I think a process would be nice, and then everybody has the standard and knows the criteria for the program.
Okay, I'm not, want to read that whole, I mean, we do have some type of criteria, but now it's not like we're just totally winging it.
Right.
Right, there's a whole slew of information they need to provide. It's really how do you weed through that and then not put your own personal bias into it, so that when you have $10,000 for 36 different places that want on average 300 to 3,000 a piece. How do you pick and choose? And then we certainly can't do it in an open town meeting because we've seen how dicey that gets. So we're trying to find a way to make this work.
I know, so how does the money come to us? Is it the same amount every year? Is it?
No, so it's customarily around the same.
Mhm.
It was between $6,000 and $7,000 3 years ago.
Yeah.
To give you a little backstory.
Yeah.
It got to the point, because it went through select board, budget committee, back to the select board, and then to town meeting, where we had local organizations
Mhm.
that were pitted against each other.
Mhm.
Because someone didn't want to support Norridgewock Organization A and they want to support Organization B, but the allocation of money was shifted. So I get more money if I oppose this organization, but I get no money if I vote with option B. It was public discourse, so appropriate, but probably not the most appropriate for supporting local organizations.
Mhm.
So that was when, can you go on mute, Lindsay, please? Thanks. So that was the point in time, after that town meeting, the select board came back and it was actually public recommendation to centralize the process.
Mhm.
You just get voted in that week. That same group of people are going to look at this amount and entrust it with you to make a decision to how to allocate those funds. So it took it away from budget committee.
Mhm.
It took it away, the whole process came into the select board and people are invited. People will automatically generate solicitation letters, organizations, and they send them to me starting in August.
Mhm.
Some of them are generic, some of them are small organizations, local organizations, where they send me an update to put the town report. That always, in my mind, prioritizes. And then some of them, it's a blanket request, and it's clearly just a mail merge where they insert the request. We have organizations that request that do not serve a person here.
Mhm.
That's not located within 60 miles of here, and they still send a request. So to them, I always send this letter, which was included in your packet.
Mhm.
And this was the criteria, if you will. It's loose, it's not a rating criteria.
Mhm.
Where are you? What do you do? Do you serve our residents? Do you serve our town? Not the town, but the town proper, the governmental entity. What's the estimated total of your services? How many residents do you serve? What's your annual operational update? Now, that's something that seems kind of small, but it's an easy thing to say, what did you do with our money from last year?
Mhm.
Most of these organizations don't give you that.
Mhm.
To me, that's a zero.
Mhm.
You can't tell us what you want it for or what you did with it.
Mhm.
Then their annual financial report and or summary of their finances. A lot of people just won't send that to you.
Mhm.
And then other goods, yeah, okay, so we pretty much hit all of those, and that gets put into a spreadsheet for the board to look at. For their responses, and then it gets looked at. So when they send me a response, if it doesn't contain all of this information, I bounce back automatically with this standard form letter.
Mhm.
If we gave to them last year, I will send this to them at the start of the season
Mhm.
when I start to do budgeting. And they do have that firm deadline. It says you're invited to provide a submission prior to December 9th.
Mhm.
So that gets on file. So if there are questions about the merits of an organization budget committee, I have that for them. But it's not the role of budget committee or on the floor of town meeting to say, yes, this organization, or no, this organization, because it just became too personal.
Mhm. That makes sense. And again, the money comes from,
General taxation.
yeah, I mean, I think I personally probably should have just asked more questions ahead of time to have a better understanding, you know, I think it comes quick, and for someone who's new to the select board, you kind of get bombarded in that first meeting with like what's happening, and then all of a sudden you're giving thousands of dollars away. It's a little intimidating. So I don't know in the future if there are new select board members to like give them kind of a rundown included with that data sheet, just of like what this is and the intentions and that sort of thing. And that this isn't a have to have, but a like to have. And then I'd say, you know, as select board people, we're people who put ourselves in this position and were voted on to be in this position. So town members are entrusting us in our philosophies and that sort of thing. Philanthropic is naturally like a giving thing, like from the heart. And so hopefully we all reflect the town. And I would say just, you know, I think we all got like 80 something votes, so more people should get out there and vote and get involved. And I just wanted to talk about it because I know I felt clunky about it. And I think you got some feedback too, with listeners or people who are here that felt clunky about it, even saying like maybe it should be done privately. But I just think having a stronger understanding of like where it's coming from, the intention, that we do have some criteria we look at, but at the end of the day, it's a group decision of just what we think will benefit the town.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that?
I think that, you know, having those parameters set in place of the information that we would like to gather from these organizations when they do request funding from us, I think that's a fantastic starting point. I think that, you know, we are individuals. I don't know if there's ever going to be the ability for us to be completely objective when it comes to this type of system. You know, there is some subjectivity to it, but, you know, I think that if we are trying to, you know, just do our due diligence to make sure that, you know, we're not letting someone who basically did nothing with something and someone who put in a lot of effort in putting their application, that we're weighing all of those things and trying to take the, you know, the subjectivity as much as we possibly can out of it and try to be objective to each applicant that comes in.
With that, like I said, it's probably not the best process, but it's evolving. It's gotten a little better. And we'll see how we walk through it this coming season. Anything else? See, nothing. Right. Discussion action on TIF committee recommendations.
TIF committee met last week and they reviewed two larger projects. The first were proposed parking lot improvements at the airport. This is the large parking area outside of the gate to the left of Airport Road, behind the terminal building. In your packet, you have a map with a rough outline of what's proposed to be paved. A little over 26,000 square feet estimated. Looking at market prices of asphalt, whatnot. We're working into 43,000, and then we need to leave some room budgetarily for gravel in the area. The parking area is long overdue for attention. It also would enable the airport to seek federal funding for an automated gate on that side, which enhances safety out on the airfield. And it's a nice improvement, to be honest with you. That was a unanimous vote, and up to $50,000 of TIF funds be allocated to the parking lot improvements at the airport. You have Ken Morgan here and his wife Brenda, who are business owners, and Hank, multiple owner at the airport, and on the airport advisory committee. And so feel free to ask questions of any of us or anything you want to add.
I don't want to steal your thunder, but I don't think anybody debates that definitely is a good investment and good use of that money. We're doing a lot more at the airport, and we all have to park right in that area, and we know that it's needed. I didn't realize the piece about the gate, so that is actually this bonus. So for myself, it's 100% yes.
Yes.
So
And
I have a question with that. With our TIF committee, I mean, with these sort of allotments, it's meant for businesses, and those businesses have to put up 50% of that cost as well. The airport, obviously, we know is going to be putting in $50,000 of their funds because they're never in the black. So that's my concern, is that we're doing something with this that we wouldn't allow other entities to be using, like that, how we use the TIF committee. I mean, they're not putting up that same half and we reimburse the, you know what I mean? Like, we're just giving them 50 grand.
Yeah. So this isn't under facade improvement. That's just one section of the TIF program. The TIF, you know, we've funded improvements down to when we've done it down to Emery Square. We've just bought the adaptive swing set down to Usula Park. We've paid for improvements at the boat launch. We're going to be working on sidewalks reconstruction. So it's just the facade program that requires the 50%.
Okay.
There's another open-ended economic development thing that allows you just to do what you would like to do with it.
it just seems like we just keep spending a lot of money at the airport, but we're not having any real returns on the investment. As far as, we're talking about what does the best and the most good for the amount of taxpayers and the amount of Norridgewock residents that are using that facility, can that $50,000 be better spent and better utilized by more people somewhere else? I know that we're always quick to spend money there, but I don't know.
I guess the question is there other, this is money that's put into this account. And it needs to be spent. Is there any applications that this would be taking from? So if there's, and that keeps getting refilled, right? So I guess if, my opinion on it, if you've got X amount of dollars in there, there's nobody to give it to. It's just gonna get refilled again. That's my take on the whole deal. If you had 20 applicants here looking for a $50,000 piece, maybe not, but we don't. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, go ahead, I see you got your hand up there.
Well, the tip is the town, right? So the town is putting in their 50% because it's the town's money. The town owns it.
Very true.
The airport isn't self-owned,
Right.
it's owned by the town.
And we do find it to be a worthy investment. But I don't know if you guys want any further discussion. I would entertain a motion on this.
Well, just a motion to approve the 50,000.
Up to 50,000.
Make a motion to approve up to $50,000.
Okay, there's a motion. Second, any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all right, roll call. No further discussion. Kelsey, it's a yes. Dylan, it's a yes. Lindsay, it's a no.
No.
And it's a yes for me.
The second one, is digitizing the wastewater system, for mapping purposes. The request came, let's say, from the water district, where they're working on a project right now to digitize their maps, their network, to overlay onto GIS. We have GIS already for our tax parcels. It's a data trove. That it's high value if you know how to use it, and it's huge value for us internally. The water district is looking to have stuff mapped. There's economies of scale. If we do it at the same time as them, then there's a savings potentially for both of us. And so there are also grants out there, and there's the competitive process of finding these folks that will come in and do that. Not necessarily the cheapest, but the best is what we're looking for, or the more affordable option. So the committee unanimously endorsed an expense of up to $25,000 to complete this project. This would then come in, go to foot level depth to trace all of these lines and whatnot, and then that would then overlay onto our GIS maps as it is. Not to brief it up, but Robbie Bickford is here. He is on the board of water trustees for the water district, who has started this project. He actually, I think, spearheaded it there. He's also the current chair of the sewer commission, so he's in a unique position to talk about this. And this plan was fully endorsed by the sewer commission as well.
We'll kick it right over to you.
Yeah, sure. So GIS mapping is essentially turning paper records and maps into an online digital form. So you can access it via your phone, via computer. It's real-time live data, right? That people can look at. In my day job, I work in the water industry. It's absolutely critical to make health decisions of, am I going to close this? Are we doing boil water orders? What areas are affected by this break? And it's very similar with the sewer side. We're able to make leak determinations. We're able to figure out different inflows from the sewer side. I think it's the way of the future. Any mid to large utility are using these GIS systems. And if you're relying on paper records and tie cards in this day and age, you're antiquated. So I think that it's going to happen at some point where this DEP or the drinking water program is going to say you have to have this as a requirement. So the drinking water, or the water district, has put out a request for proposal, which is a lot more formal process because we're actually getting federal grant money to do that work. And so we received 4 proposals. So what I requested for the select board and what I'm requesting for you guys is to approve up to $25,000 to do that project in conjunction with the water district. Right? So the water district is funding their own, it's a quasi-municipal organization. And then whatever it goes through. So the proposal that I did receive, we're not gonna select the cheapest, it's part of the criteria. 40% is based on price and hours used. There are other criteria as well as, we want a good product, something that we can use. If we're gonna go with the cheapest option, you're gonna end up with the cheapest one, right? So there's a lot of different moving pieces. The GIS is absolutely critical to protect public health and safety, so I think, and it's a great project. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer.
No, none for myself. I agree totally. It definitely is going to take a bunch of time. So for me, it's a yes. Does the board have any other questions? Or where'd you go?
Yes, for me.
Perfect. Then I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the 25,000.
Second,
No, go, this is a motion, so we second that.
Lindsay did.
I did.
Yeah, that's what she said. Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Kelsey, yes, Dylan, yes, Lindsay, yes, and yes for myself. All right, that will be us doing other business.
All right, we had a busy day today. Lindsay, I hope you got everything. For
What's
extras. I hope you got everything for extras.
yes, I've got it on my phone. I've been going along with it.
Thank you. The first would be, at the request of the Public Works Department to add discussion action on Coral Hill paving project to the agenda.
So moved.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Kelsey? Yes.
What are we doing?
Adding this.
Yeah.
Dylan, yes. Lindsay?
Yes.
And a yes for myself.
The proposal we put before you at the last meeting was for arguably an industry standard of a 9mm surface material for Burl Hill Road. After looking at the traffic on the road more closely, looking at what we've seen historically for work product, the foreman reached out to Pike and asked for a reprice of the surface to increase it from a 9mm material to 12.5mm. So it comes at a discount, but they also want to put a thicker surface down. So instead of 1 inch, it's a 1.25 inch surface. So it increases the tons, decreases the unit price. The net impact on project cost is plus 16,209. So I haven't got the road committee together because this candidly just came across my desk yesterday, the day before. But I do have two members of the road committee here that I may have consulted offline and asked them to weigh in on it. And that's why it's before you tonight.
I have a question before. Is that due to less traffic? Or is this a better product for the more traffic or the?
So this is better.
Heavy.
Heavy is what they've said. And I've attached the email from Pike that to that effect is this a premium product or is it a better solution for our road?
This is just for Burl Hill.
Just for Berlin. Yeah.
We've noticed right on Winding Hill since the overlay, the base that was on there since Lee Brothers did it many years ago, held up better than the surface right in the first corner has already been sliding and separating there through the truck traffic. So Joe reaching out and trying to do something with a better wear surface on Burl Hill does make sense, and it's 5% of the cost to maybe not have what we have up there. I don't see where it's a huge change in money if we're gonna get a better product. And,
Should have to do a repair.
right, I mean, we do have, there is a couple places, I've seen a couple places where the overlay is separated soon after they've done it, within 3 years after we've overlaid it. So if that would prevent that, I think it's a fair request on Joe's part, and the money doesn't seem extravagant.
But this too is a prime example of something that didn't go to bed. So, right, this is.
But it did. But
But it did, but
this was already, the bid process happened last year, so to grind and paint, and we got all the prices together last year, and it's kind of carryover from last year. So as far as the whole argument of not being put out to bid, that's not exactly true. It's a two-part process, and that's what we asked for last year. when we asked to grind it, let it sit, see if there's a, but we had the price for paving last year in place. We just didn't feel like we had the money to spend, nor was it proper to do so with maybe having some questions with that hill through the winter. So that's why we did it in a two-part work process, but the bid was done last year.
So, no, again, it looks a little dicey from the outside, but if you know everything.
It was done last year.
It's fine, and by keeping and going with them, we're saving a substantial amount of money by not having to put together a bid packet. Rebid the whole thing, try to get on somebody's schedule for fall, and listen to everybody complain.
But I think you'd be pissing off the contractor
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
because they would already gone through that last year.
Yes, so you automatically gonna be hiring from the same thing. So for myself, it's a solid yes, because well, it only makes sense. So I would entertain really anything from the board.
Motion to bump it up to 162,581.
Yeah.
For service.
Sorry.
Second,
So-
long as it says pump it up.
Perfect. Now there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, Kelsey, yes, Dylan, yes, Lindsay.
Yep.
Yes, and yes for myself.
Really good. You got any input on when they would start that project?
The goal is to have it done before June 1st.
Okay, because I know you said that at the last meeting, but I just didn't know if it had changed.
Yeah, and they were, I saw them out in the area yesterday paving,
Okay,
so they thought it was gonna be the second or third week of May.
okay, I just,
Let it rain some more. though.
Quick question, just with them. The email says plus or minus, so is our motion okay?
The motion is okay because,
Okay.
yes,
Just checking,
it's the change in the surface.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It could be down because if we use less minutes.
yeah, I just didn't know.
The next is also a request from the Public Works Department, that being your consideration and discussion and action on winter sand purchase to the agenda, please.
Motion to add.
The motion in
Second,
second, any further discussion? Seeing none. Kelsey, yes, Dylan, yes, Lindsay.
Yep.
Yes, and a yes for myself.
All right, so unusual that we're dealing with this time of year, but there is a pit up on the Madison Town line that is in the process of being sold. There's material prepared and on site, and we're able to access that at a discount. That discount is not a discount compared to what we were paying 2 years ago, but nonetheless, it's $6 a yard for winter sand. The estimated quantity needed is $3,000. We reached out to Sargent, who's doing some work with a large facility here in town. Thinking that we could get into their pit in Smithfield, we could. It's $8 a ton, $8 a yard, sorry. And we would then be required to take our loader down and load it ourselves. The Farron Brothers proposal up in Madison does include the loading. We could not get a price with the quality sand that the department likes.
So you have looked at this material?
Yes,
Is it the same material that they just purchased late last year?
yes,
Did they have a problem with it then?
no.
Okay.
No.
Good.
And so anyway, so we got those two prices, 1.6, 1.8, one we have to load, one's loaded. And so the request from the department and my recommendation would be to approve the purchase of winter sand at the cost of $6 a unit from Farron Brothers.
Question. If you do it now, do they have, what's the time frame in which they gotta get it out of there?
The department would like to do it next week, so you avoid the expense of the fans, you avoid the hot weather, and we can get salt at a discount,
You know, and I was just wondering,
relative discount.
because they probably have a time frame as well, because, yes,
Correct, it's gonna be cool and dry next week.
yeah.
And that's why I came today at the last minute, because the weather looks good.
Well, what did we pay last year? What did you pay for last? I mean.
I think it was 6 to 650.
Right,
The problem is that they sold the pit and whatever was processed and up there was retained by the owners. The property itself is transferred.
Yeah, it's nice sharp sand.
Yeah, and we bought a lot of gravel from them. You remember last year, we kind of jumped outside of the route and we started on the gravel. We were able to get it at a discount.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. Yeah.
Motion to approve $6 a yard gravel from Farron Brothers.
Second,
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Kelsey, yes, Aaron, yes, Lindsay, yes.
Yes.
Yes, for myself. That's excellent.
The next is the resident request for an addition that came in late today, and that would be to add discussion action on land use fee waiver to the agenda.
Motion to add land use fee waiver.
Motion and a
Second.
second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Kelsey,
Yes.
yes, Dylan, yes, Lindsay, yes. and
Yes.
Okay, we have I'll give you the quick overview. Code officer is here to take all of your questions. Map 16, lot 25, 490 Skowhegan Road, that is your concrete plant. They have installed two large canopy structures over existing concrete material storage area. Our ordinance requires they be permitted. The definition within some of our ordinances that state that it's walls or my other word, supports, something to that effect, the support of roof, and they're defined as a roof. So the size of these two combined is 3,900 square feet. That then requires it goes to site plan review before the planning board. It's within the shoreline, it's within the floodplain, but the state is saying, you know, it's really not enforceable because of the technical definition of structure.
I was under the impression.
So that's not the case with our local ordinance. Our local ordinances have the odd definition, which could stand to be amended, but that's not what the ordinance is. The state's guidelines, as you can see in this, they're pretty much saying, no, you're good to go. But with our ordinances that are in place, it's a site plan review process, subject to the floodplain, subject to the shoreline. And so, because it was done without a permit, it's all after the fact. So everything does. A $75 application for shoreline turns into $150, same for floodplain. And then your big sticker item is your commercial building under site plan review, which is $250 plus 10 cents per square foot. So that's the $250 plus $390, and then you double that. So that's $1,000. The applicant does not believe that they should have to pay these fees. And so we don't have the authority to do that, only the select board does. The applicant has the support of the state in waiving the review process, mostly for floodplain and shoreline. Probably be subject to shoreline review because of structure height.
Yes.
And that's about where we're at. The applicant, the total bill would be $1,580, which is $790, which is regular application fee times 2 for after the fact. The applicant's requesting that you pretty much abate or forgive or waive $1,080, which is the after the fact shoreline zone, after the fact floodplain, and then the square footage on the site plan review, because the applicant does not believe that they should have to pay that because they're not increasing the impervious surface. Mr. Code Officer. What
Did a great job.
Okay.
He's covered it all. It's a lot to take in because there's so many moving parts. It's each separate ordinance. But he did cover everything. I mean, this is not the first time we've seen these type of structures. Right up the road, Canadian Chain. They come to the planning board process several years ago. Very little was required of them. So we're just keeping the process, you know, the way it's been in the past, which is following the ordinance. He has submitted waivers for the floodplain and shoreline zoning to the planning board for them 2 items. When we was talking about them, he asked, can he put a waiver in for fees? That's something I don't do. I don't set fees. The board sets them. I just apply them where the ordinance is written. So I applied them. I tell them we can bring it to the select board, which has the authority. We do not, so it's really up to you on what you think is fair and what's right with the fees.
I don't think I have a copy of this in my packet, do I? With the,
You should have got it late in the day. It's a letter from Dave.
kind of where I, you know, honestly, for me, I feel like anyone who's on the river is already getting charged way more than they probably should for anything to do with floodplain stuff. So for me, I hate anyone paying anything extra because they're on that river, because we already get so hosed. Flood insurance and everything else. That's kind of where I'm at, but I get it that we have like policies and process to go, but.
Is I've always been under the impression that the blocks and the canopy, that's the way to go because of you, at least it used to be the way to get away from all this stuff. So, and if he was talking to someone from the state, giving him the same impression, I can see where that could get a little confusing, I guess.
I'm not something, I think what's confusing though.
Well, just. Everybody's always said, oh yeah, put it on blocks and put a cover over it, and it's not it's a movable building, it's not a permanent structure, you get away from everything.
The only thing I'll ask you about
Yeah.
that, the one who said, so if you put a wooden building there and you put skins under it, how like you hook onto it and drag it, so I'm just, where do you go with that definition?
That's dicey.
Yes.
For me, I mean, I like the fact that they covered the materials, because that actually does a lot to improve the runoff into the river. So what he's done is an improvement that actually helps with the water quality. So it's a good thing. There's no doubt about that. It's the process. I mean, are you claiming you didn't know? And it happened by accident, you were under the impression that you were okay and you just did it?
Mhm.
That's one thing. If you just did it to be, you know. If you did it for another reason, then it would be different. I don't know if we can just say that, you know, for lack of better words, ignorance is okay in this case. So I didn't know. Your bond will waive it all, because what will it be next time? And if we do it for him, do we do it for the next person that chooses to? But I like the improvement, and I certainly don't want to stick it to, you know.
Right,
It is.
but then that was one
business.
thing is if the state was saying one thing, and this is just what I have always known about it is a lot of people have gone to that block, put things on blocks and put a roof over it, a canopy or whatever, because it's considered movable. I mean, you could sell that building and it could be gone tomorrow.
Same as mobile home.
Yeah, I guess.
Or you could just say it was cheap.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too.
Hey, you could get it mixed up with assessing too. A lot of times assessing looks at things completely different. than-
Oh, and it's maybe short.
And someone might be trying to avoid a tax bill, which I get that also, but the way the ordinance is written, it's pretty clear as defined
Okay,
in it.
yeah,
Does our ordinance go over and above what the state requires?
Some of them do.
Is that what the problem is basically right now?
Some of them do. They're more restrictive, which they can be.
And I don't know when they made them more restricted. It was a couple of years ago, yes.
Last time we adopted shoreline zoning, it was quite a while ago.
Well, okay.
It actually should be updated again, probably.
So I mean, for you right now, how are you with the process and where are you currently setting these?
We are here tonight because this is scheduled for next week for the planning board. And like I said, the applicant asked about waiving the fees, which I cannot do. I'm trying to get answers for him as we move forward.
I mean, I'm not awfully fixed on fees. Going under the assumption, of course, this gentleman is not here to say, plead his case or explain how he came to this. So you'd have to say, maybe he just didn't know. And under that, I would say that we set it at the normal fee rate, what it would have been, if he'd done it correctly. And that's just for myself, but I don't know if the rest of the board feels that way. But it seems like the easiest way to just keep this moving forward and not set a poor precedent, for the people that come behind him.
I agree.
So, Lindsay, your thoughts?
I kind of feel like we make all kinds of exceptions for people when they aren't paying their taxes and doing that kind of stuff and give them 9,000 chances. You know, I think that we've got a small business owner that's trying to, you know, grow the business, do the right thing for the property. You know, we have to give people sometimes the benefit of the doubt that maybe they didn't understand it. You know, like if this was something that was a recurring pattern and we saw this person's name all the time, I would say absolutely. But, you know, I think that every once in a while, like maybe if we have the ability to say we can waive this and, you know, learn from this, don't do this again, maybe we should.
So are you saying you want a full waive the fees, or are you happy at the normal fee rate without the penalty?
No penalties. What's the normal fee rate? What's the total amount?
$790, but the applicant also doesn't believe that they should have to pay any of the shoreline or any of the floodplain. Also, they don't believe they should have to pay the square footage.
I say just like the normal fee, none of the extra
Right.
stuff on top of that.
If it was done the right way, that's what you should think. Right. That's where I'm at too. Yeah.
So not,
Right.
I would caution the board of precedent setting.
yeah. I mean, it looks like Dave's letter says that the floodplain application should not be applied because the DEP deemed that not, like, it didn't fit. But that shoreland and commercial kind of maybe should be, or should be looked at. I don't know if we should wait till the planning board looks at it and then come back. As far as like, are they even, was this even okay that he did it, or?
So you can't do that because his application can't be heard by the planning board until full payment is received. That's a component of completion.
That's what we.
But I mean, I think that, as you noted, it would probably be appropriate to exclude the floodplain. Because at all levels, it seems as though you can straight face exclude it. But when there's a building violation, whether it's because they didn't know, because they did know, didn't care, or whatever the reason, we have to chase it. We have to work with MMA, it's his time, it's my time, it's admin time, it's postage, it's chasing, it's mileage. And those don't come free. That was one of the big topics of discussion when, sort of years ago, the board, rolled back the cost of site plan review development on residential. Wherever for a home is $25, but we want people to be compliant, yeah, that's great, $25. But it's only $50 if you're going to build a home with a permit. And so it's the balance there.
I've been reading a lot about compassionate accountability. And somebody's giggling. I appreciate this small business owner and we have some empathy for them living on the river and all that comes with that. I would be in favor of exempting the floodplain stuff, but moving forward with the shoreland and commercial building fees, and I would even be in favor of the doubling because they didn't do that, but
So is that a motion?
I don't know how to word that as a motion.
Well, all you have to do is say that's a motion.
That's my motion.
Do I have a second on
Is
that?
that easy?
So motion and second. Any further discussion?
Yes, for the record. So the motion on the floor is to charge the shoreline zone fee, $75 plus the 75 for after the fact. The site plan review fee is $250. That's $500 for after the fact. And the $390 is the square footage charge. Times 2 is $780 for after the fact.
Is it just a fabric cover that's being counted as that 3,000 square feet?
It's 2.
It's what?
2 of them.
But it's not like an actual building, it's just a cover on material, right?
By local ordinance, it is considered a building because it is a roof. Only
is it a
in the
permanent
shoreline
roof?
zone. Only if you're in the shoreline zone is that considered a building. If it's outside of the shoreline zone, it's not considered a building.
Ugh.
But in the shoreline zone, the definition of a building is a roof that's supported by walls or beams or something to that effect.
And strange enough, in the floodplain, it's not considered a building. There's some work to do.
I don't know. Every property owner just gets it so hard.
Motion is to charge them the full rate then?
It's the full rate.
Mine
plus
is
one-
the floodplain application
Yes.
because the DEP said that was fine.
So the total here would be $1,430 for the fee.
I think I'd like to do a counter motion of including that, but not including the after the fact fees.
So you
That's-
cannot make a counter.
Right, doesn't quite. So we've got a motion out here right now. We're finalizing it. We'll actually call for discussion on it right now. And the motion will either have to fail. And then
Somebody
another
can make
motion
another
can be made.
motion,
But for right now, I'll actually call for any further discussion on Kelsey's motion. Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. I'll start with Kelsey. It's a yes. Dylan?
No.
Is a no. Lindsay?
No.
is- No, it's a. That, oh, hey, Ron's here. Perfect. I'm like, that's gonna be the tie. It's a yes for me. So Ron, where do you land on this? particular-
Yes, I just read through it and a
Okay.
yes on the vote.
And it is a yes for him. So the motion passes. Perfect. Thank you. Moving forward. You go to the right time.
Thanks.
Okay, moving forward, we have executive session. Yeah, you guys are all gonna have to look at one. So does the board have any other business besides those? I don't. No, this is.
I told you that I got a tour of the fire department. That happened longer ago, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, anything from the public, fire away?
Oh, a couple of sessions ago, I can't remember which one, it was talked about having emails available to the general public, so you could.
Yes.
I went on to the town website to see if I could find that and could not. So if I wanted to,
I don't know.
well, I did, I did.
But,
And I ended chasing down their home address and sending them a snail mail because I had no access. No, you go ahead and laugh at me. So I really, if I need to talk to any of you, I have to chase down a regular mail address. I can't send you an email. And then I think part of the, well, I never check my email and I don't want my regular email. You can get a Gmail account and have everything forwarded to the email you do check.
oh, that's,
So, that is not a lie.
that's a lot for me.
I know.
Our golden is online, yes.
I don't think anything's online. No, I
Really?
think probably she's talking about the right to know act maybe, because I don't remember ever talking about our emails being online.
Just you can forward us stuff to discuss.
Discuss or,
I'm
you know,
fine
say,
giving it my Gmail one for that, if that's what.
I would-
Sure.
you know, I have concerns,
But that's just for, the only thing I have this one for is for being selectmen, so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's what I did when I was first elected as well. I created a Gmail account that was just Lindsay Lynch 04957 at Gmail. It was for that purpose, for the communication that way.
But
So, I mean-
but it's not available to the general public. It's not
Okay.
on you underneath beside your select person, Lindsay Lynch. And the contact information.
Excellent point. I guess we will decide individually whether we're comfortable with our stuff being online, and then at each person's choice, they can
Yep,
decide. what
we
they-
have a discussion about it and
Yeah.
figure out what the
My
best avenue.
response to that is, if you're not comfortable for me to be able to access you easily, then you're not comfortable having me talk to you, period.
Oh, yeah, I'd rather you call me and show up at my house. I don't want a text from you or something. You know, everybody gets to see what they want to keep.
But it's much easier to drop someone an email
Very good.
than it is like, oh, coming down Frederick Corner Road where the ballpark is, where they're only supposed to park on one side of the road. They're not, they're doing both sides of the road. And cars whip up and down there. So, you know,
Okay, no valid.
Not to overstep, but that's probably more of something in my office, because you're gonna ring their phone while they're at their full-time job. And then they're gonna have time to ring my phone in order to accomplish that. So typically what happens is the girls will get a call in the front office.
okay.
And it could be an email, it could be a cell phone number. They have a list of everything. They have everybody's information.
Yeah.
Shy, their social security number, and there are things that are red.
But still, it should be readily accessible.
Yeah, no, good point, really. I think most of us will be comfortable with our stuff being online.
It's a contact person's you,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Fire away.
There you go.
You know, but I'm not, I shouldn't have to go, if I want to talk to
No,
you,
I know.
I shouldn't have to go through.
Yeah, I
I
get
shouldn't
that.
have to go through Richard.
Okay, no, good point. Thank you. All right, anything else, guys? No public? Before we kick you out? Mike, fire.
I haven't said anything about my favorite speed bump, so I just.
I'll skip you for that reason. Well, with that said, we're gonna go into executive session, labor negotiations. There's a lot of individuals.